once you do start up a business in Salford and Manchester, that you're going to gain traction and attention to the closest areas nearby. And it's something that since me and Ash took over in June 2021, kind of stuck with the same model as such, and it's people being interested in Edstart that are close by, or even members of staff that have worked for Edstart, similar to me and Ash, and they wanted to make their own pathway and career choices as well.
Since Chris took over, and we've kind of continued on it really, it's the spiral effect, the organic growth, and how that brings quality over the quantity. So when we do spiral, and as we grow, there's always a touching point, there's always a touching area, so then the next area can support the next area, if that makes sense. So for example, Bury and Rochdale, Bury was Adam, myself was Rochdale, we were the two first franchisees. So straight away we had that support mechanism, as well as Salford with the main base. Again, pretty much it was touching Bury. We then grew out around them areas, and we just continued that growth spiral effect.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Drive Phase podcast with your host James Moore from Coordinate Sports. This is your show about sports founders, leaders, and experts, and the stories behind their business journeys. On today's episode, we had a great conversation with Ash and Adam of Edstart Sports Coaching. The guys actually took over the franchise recently in the last couple of years from our previous guest, Chris Irwin, and he was the founder of the organisation. So we had a good conversation around kind of what that means to take on a business, how they've managed to do that while still running their own franchise areas, and their plans for growth and how they organically grow their franchise, which helps them with standardizing operation. Great episode for anyone who's kind of running a small business but also has those aspirations for growth. The guys are really clearly kind of showing the vision that they have for the organization, which is translating into new partnerships with national providers, such as British Gymnastics. They've got a great partnership with the Jacksonville Jaguars and their Jag Tag program. So yeah, really enjoyed speaking to the guys, hearing about everything that they've got planned and the future, and I'm sure you'll get some insight from this. So yeah, as always, if you're listening, please subscribe, please hit the notification bell so you hear when our episodes are coming out weekly. And once again, comments is what we want. So if you have any comments or feedback on the show, on the guests, on things you'd like to see in the future, just let us know. But yeah, let's dive into the show and enjoy. Okay, I'm really excited to welcome the team behind Edstart Sports Coaching. It's Ash Greenhalgh and Adam Rowles. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, James.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for bearing with me with the couple of technical glitches beforehand. Maybe it was the snow, I'm not sure. But as we always do when we start off, is kind of getting to know you guys a little bit better, and going back to the start. Obviously, a couple of stories might be similar, might not be, but I just really want to hear about what your experience of PE, particularly primary school, was for each of you growing up.
Yeah, definitely. So I think my kind of upbringing around sport was me going to a primary school that was heavily involved with sport. So it was competitions, lots of PE through the curriculum, and you had sports-minded teachers as well. So it really helped my education in primary school there. It was something that I wanted to obviously take on board. You know, as I got a little bit older, it was something that I'd kind of always been passionate about.
What about you, Ash? You grew up in the Northwest as well?
Yeah, definitely. So we lived in a similar area, actually, Haywood, Greater Manchester. Now, my primary school, if I remember rightly, there's a lot of shoes off, pumps off, get in the hall, and just do little warm-up games. Now, the biggest thing I remember from primary school was my high school PE teacher coming into primary school and delivering I suppose it's out of school sessions to kind of encourage them to come to that school. And it was a volleyball session, and that's where I kind of, I suppose, found a love for sport from that scenario. I was a bit of a late bloomer for sport. Didn't play football till I was 10 and so on and so on. So yeah, primary school I don't have a lot of sports or PE memories until probably year 5, year 6.
But that must have been pretty progressive, like sports development stuff. Was that volleyball, doing outreach to try and find new players, was it?
Yeah, that, and yeah, well, the school that we went to at high school, there was big on volleyball, and it was a case of when you went to school, if you was of a certain height, then you was like, right, come down to volleyball. And it's from year 7 all the way up to year 11, you trained. And to be fair, we hit some big competitions, and at year 11, we became national champions. So it showed it worked.
And then as you go into secondary school, I'm guessing the focus onto more competition came in. Was that the same for you, Adam? Was it kind of sport inside and outside of school?
Yeah, 100%. So me and Ash went to the same high school as well. Ash is a couple of years older than me. Straight from year 7, you presented with loads of opportunities, extracurricular opportunities, and with the school at the time, it was a sports college. So sport was very heavy on their agenda. So you not only did football, which most lads our age in high school did have lots of opportunities to play and compete in other sports against other schools as well.
Definitely. So when you're thinking about moving on from school, was, I guess, a career in sport always there for you? Was that the plan when you went on from finished at high school, guys?
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I left high school with not the best grades, and it was a big wake-up call for me when I left high school, because I left with minimal things, and I had to go to a college which was an hour and a half away to do an extra year's course, which, to be fair, was probably one of the best courses I've done, to then get onto the original course that I should have got onto if I got the right GCSEs. But to be fair, that year out, where before I went into BTEC, I had to do an activity leadership course in centre of town in Manchester, and that was it opened my eyes a lot, because I was very quiet, very timid. I was always in that I was like an in-betweener in a way. Just floated through school, did all the sports, every type of sport I could do, but then when it came to everything else, it just kind of floated through. So when I got to this activity leadership course, it kind of created the opportunity where I was in a position where I had to not defend for myself, but I had to kind of show myself properly in terms of football teams, in terms of in the class, there was a lot of characters in there. And then going into the actual college at BTEC, where I went to Hotwood Hall, I found that really easy then. And then the passion again for I started coaching when I went into Hotwood Hall College for a different franchise business a long time ago, and it just kind of built from there, really, the passion for it. And straight away I knew that actually there was nothing else that I wanted to do, it was just sport, and how I could kind of stay in that industry.
And I guess, like, running alongside this, we had obviously Chris on the show before. I guess around this time where you guys are in school, college coming up, Chris is starting Edstart, I'm assuming around the similar times, and getting it off the ground. So when did you guys get involved with Edstart? Was it kind of straight out of, I've probably got two different stories on that, but for you, Adam, when did you get involved with the organisation prior to taking over?
Yeah, so I'd always been involved in sports, and knowing Ash, I remember Ash had rang me one day and said, the company that I'm working for is looking at taking on some casual sports coaches. Is it something that you're interested in? So I was like, yeah, definitely. At the time I was at university studying sports coaching, so it's something that I knew I wanted to get into. My first path that I wanted to take, I did want to go into high school teaching, teach in high schools, but then coming into Edstart was primary school children, and looking at the development stages in EYFS, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2. It was something that I'd got even more of a passion about. So that was when...
Why do you think that was, Ad? Was that just because of lack of kind of opportunity, not opportunities, but generally going into teaching? Was that just the only pathway that you kind of saw, like leaving college and university? Was it like, teaching was the only one, there wasn't the other pathways we have now?
Yeah, because I'd had quite a good experience, a good time in school, especially in sports, and doing that outside of school as well, and then taking it on to college and taking it on to university. It was always going to be sports that I was going to be involved in, and it was looking at being a high school PE teacher. Because I remember at the time, a lot of our high school PE teachers, I did see them as big role models for me, and there was your teacher, but there was almost like your friend as well, and you could see their fun, their passion, their enjoyment for what they did, and I just knew that I kind of wanted to do that as well. The only thing that put me off from the teaching aspect, actually going directly into education, was the invisible work that people don't tend to see what teachers do. Kind of from there, I'm looking at it in a different way and thinking, well, I do want to do something for myself one day as well. I do want to be involved with sport, but I want to make my own decisions, my own pathway for myself. And I thought at that time, being in teaching and actually working directly for a school, I've always potentially got a shelf life or a ceiling above me, and I didn't want that. So that's obviously, made the decision then when I joined Edstart and franchise opportunities came around. I knew that was my ticket as such, and I wanted to do that.
Yeah, I know that kind of growth model is interesting. Might be something to speak on now. Where it's kind of organic, isn't it, in terms of the area? Obviously Northwest, but the franchises tend to grow out from each other. Is that how it has always been under Chris as well prior?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think naturally, once you do start up a business in Salford and Manchester, that you're going to gain traction and attention to the closest areas nearby. And it's something that since me and Ash took over in June 2021, kind of stuck with the same model as such. And it's people being interested in Edstart that are close by, or even members of staff that have worked for Edstart, similar to me and Ash. And they wanted to make their own pathway and career choices as well.
Yeah, we have, since Chris took over, and we've kind of continued on it really. It's the spiral effect, the organic growth, and how that brings quality over the quantity. So when we do spiral, and as we grow, there's always a touching point. There's always a touching area. So then the next area can support the next area. That makes sense. So for example, Bury and Rochdale, which is Bury was Adam, myself was Rochdale. We were the two first franchisees. So straight away we had that support mechanism, as well as Salford with the main base. Again, pretty much it was touching Bury. We then grew out around them areas, and we just continued that growth spiral effect.
Obviously, we heard Chris's side of things in terms of how it came about for you guys taking over, but really good to hear from your side in terms of obviously you working for the company and things are going well. Got your own territories, I guess, when did you guys come up with the idea of wanting to buy him out or to move into kind of leadership positions?
Came out of nowhere, because
a bit random, really.
Yeah, we was all in a Zoom meeting, so all the franchise areas, and Chris was in there as well. And Chris was, because of the growth of the company, Chris was looking at taking on or trying to headhunt a general manager at the time, someone who can oversee day-to-day operations and fit in nicely and obviously grow us to the point where we wanted to get to. And I rang Ash straight after the Zoom and said, I think it's something that I'd be really interested to do. I want to help other people achieve in their franchise area as well. I want to help the brand and the name get out there a little bit more. Do you think it's something that we could do as a joint venture? So me and Ash could almost as such step up again. So not only would we have a successful franchise each behind us, we've now got this general managing job in front of us. And it kind of put a spanner in the works for Chris.
Yeah, we're expecting that response.
Yeah. And then we had a couple of meetings with Chris, and he said, there's a potential opportunity for an ownership of Edstart Sports Coaching. So we was kind of flattered by it, and it was something that we was like, right, well, let's go full steam ahead with this and see what happens. And then next thing we know, we're sat down and signing contracts and taking over an organisation.
We went to the meeting with Chris, and we weren't actually expecting full ownership, like the offer of taking over the business. It was a case of, we might get X, Y, and Z, but...
Oh, so you're thinking like a minority percentage or something between the two of you or something like that, with him still involved?
Yeah, exactly, a smaller percentage of it, and becoming shareholders of it or something like that. And then he presented the idea, and we both looked at each other, and I think probably took us about 30 seconds to say yeah. It was an easy decision for us, because we knew that we were capable of it, and I think we're proving it now, to continue the good work that Chris has done and take it further.
Yeah, and what's that process like? I guess there's maybe people listening now who are working for sports coaching businesses, or those who are running businesses and thinking about potentially like selling them or looking for some type of management buyout, things like you guys have done. What was that process like? And I know like valuation and things like that. How did that all get kind of, I guess, hammered out? Was it?
Yeah, it was kind of the process. Obviously, was from Chris to get the valuation of the company through the accountants. But what made it a seamless process is, in Edstart, we all share the same accountant, so we've all got that support network in place. And because Chris had gone to our accountants to get the valuation, because I trust the accountants, it was the offer that Chris kind of put in front of us. It was something that I knew was backed up by the accountant, who I trust as well. So once that was put in place, and we had to go through certain steps to then sign over the business in terms of the background of it and the trademark and the copyrights of the logos and everything else that came with it. We just had to go through all them steps. But it actually was quite seamless approach. Chris was great with it. He definitely supported us through that process and next steps, as did our solicitor. He was always just on the end of a phone call if needed, and it just made it really easy for us.
And I guess in terms of transition for you guys, maybe a challenge in terms of stepping up above and leading the rest of the franchise network, but knowing the business and everything, that's the easy bit, right? You've already got the culture, and there's nothing that you needed to kind of implement.
I think it's one of our strengths that we've got now within our industry, that as a franchise business, we are currently still franchisees and the franchisor. So we've both got our individual areas. So I'm Rochdale franchisee, Adam's franchisee of Bury, but then we're the franchisors of the whole business as well. So that puts us in a position where actually we've obviously been there from the beginning. We've built our own franchisees up. So we know when new franchisees come in, we've been in their shoes, we know what they're thinking, we know the procedures, and every area is different. Every area is totally different. But then we look at how both of our areas, which are different, and how did we adapt to them different situations and scenarios. So yeah, it's one of them where we've transitioned really well through it. And I think you've got to aspire. So we was obviously sports coaches. We volunteered for a little while, become sports coaches, then became area managers. I was the secretary on the foundation of Edstart, and then got the franchisee. And then when we were franchisees, it was a case of, we got to a certain stage and you kind of felt like we're doing really well here. What's next? We became regional managers. So we oversaw a number of areas. So much as I don't like to say it, Adam was the north, I was the south. And it was a case of, I had certain areas, Adam had certain areas. We'd go and support them franchisees. So in a sense, we was already kind of supporting that team as well. So the natural steps came in play well before this negotiation came in place. So it worked out nicely.
It was something that I'd always, I definitely wanted to do it from as soon as I took on the franchise barrier. I always knew there was going to be that another next step as well. And it was something that I'd always looked at. And my first interview with Chris, when he actually said, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? I'd actually said, like where you are, I want to be in that position of, not just being someone as a director, but someone who can actually support and help people through their growth as well. And it's something that we're doing really great with. Chris passed down a lot of knowledge to us, and we're just passing it on to everybody else. Yeah,
and you've got that knowledge of being out there in the field, delivering, growing your own franchises. So it's great for you to be able to pass that on. What's the challenges at the moment? Because I know obviously most of the guys we're speaking to in the industry, recruitment's always the big challenge. Are you finding the same thing, or have you got any others that are kind of popping up? I guess how are you dealing with them?
Yeah, if you asked that question probably 12 months ago, we would have been like, recruitment's at the top of our list. And don't get me wrong, it is pretty much still there. I think it always will be. Recruitment's always one of them where it's a service at the end of the day, and you need the best service, you need the best people coming in, and then you've got the turnover of staff and so on and so on. But over the last 6 months, I feel really accomplished in terms of how we've recruited. So we've started kind of processing with the idea of going into universities a lot more and creating partnerships that way. So we've gone to local universities like UCFB, Hopwood College hold university courses, Bolton College, and we're working our way in there and getting the students on board to train them up while they're at university to then come on board as sports coaches full time. And the amount of applications we've got just in the 6 months we've been doing presentations and talks. We went with one of our ambassadors the other day to an event at UCFB at the Etihad. And it's building them relationships now with the students that they're recognising us more. So they're trusting us more. So there's more and more applicants coming in, and we're getting a lot of variety coming in as well, which is nice.
I think because we're growing organically as a company as well, and as an organisation in different areas, because we're gaining a lot of attraction from schools, and we're getting a lot of schools contacting us now in various areas, wanting us to work as part of their school. So naturally, when we get more business, more schools coming on board, more children coming to holiday clubs, there is a long-term need for good staff, and it is what we're getting now. We've got a lot of good staff that work for Edstart, and they've all got really good futures ahead of them as well.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges in terms of recruitment is probably the financial side of things. You've got schools paying X amount, and which is kind of like staying at a certain place, if not trying to get lower. And then you've got minimum wage creeping up higher and higher. And we've always tried to have a career where it's kind of desirable, and we've kind of put in place a bit of a pay scale, which will hopefully make it a more desirable job again. Because we plateaued for a good year or so, where the minimum wage was there and we was paying our staff there, and it wasn't far away from the minimum wage. We're thinking it's not desirable anymore.
Yeah, and it never used to be like that, right? I guess when you guys started, I think it was a good job if you're into sport and sports coaching, etc. And it's paid pretty well compared to, like you said, compared to minimum wage. That gap was a lot more significant, wasn't it, back in the day?
Like I said there, it was a really desirable job at the time. When I came in 2013, the hourly rate at the time was a lot higher than the job that I just left. But the struggles for schools, and I suppose that is a barrier for all coaching companies anyway, because of the sports premium, as much as it doubled a couple of years ago, or a good couple of years ago, it's still probably not enough there for all schools to get the service and the provision that they want, and that their children actually deserve as well. And I know the premium just being released this week. They're saying about children doing 2 hours of PE per week, but realistically, to put it into a timetable for a school and to pay for it, the budget, it does need to be a little bit more lenient for schools, and they do need that extra support so they can actually have the best for their kids.
I think that's a positive though, bringing that 2 hours back in, because it was there before, wasn't it? And then it kind of wasn't pushed as much, but trying to push the schools to do the 2 hours of PE. Do you think what are the options for the schools at the moment, or the ones that you're working with? Do you think internally they've got the workforce, or is it purely they need to have the budget to bring people in to support?
Again, every school's different, and every teacher's different. So we kind of approach schools with the idea of both angles, really. And I think schools have to be very sensible in terms of how they use it, obviously, making sure that they're not de-skilling the members of staff. And that's the last thing we want to do, is come in and take away the idea. Like, we speak to a lot of teachers, and like, we've not taught PE for X amount of years, and we've come into it and we're like, right, well, let's start fresh. Let's go. We'll put you onto our teacher mentoring program. We'll go from there. We'll build your confidence, your knowledge, your knowledge on assessments, and so on. And we'll get that confidence back into it. And so it's a case of, in most schools, we'll deliver 1 hour, and the teacher will deliver an hour with our support in creating that knowledge and confidence.
Yeah, it sounds like a perfect partnership. But I know you've got other partnerships as well in terms of external organisations and the kind of programmes. I'm keen to hear those programmes that I know you're developing new ones all the time, but the programmes that are having the most success, or I guess your most innovative ones. What is it that you this kind of, maybe not new, but your most impactful ones?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the partnership what we have with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which are an NFL team, so an American football team, and we deliver a primary school program for them, which is called JagTag. It's got quite a catchy name. So the partnership brought almost a new sport. So American football has been a thing for years and years, but a lot of children haven't had the opportunity to play American football. And I take an American football into school, and the first thing children will say is, "Oh, are we playing rugby today?" And straight away, you've got that level playing field, delivering JagTag to children who've never played it before, but because they've never had the opportunity, they don't know how far to take it. So it was a real catchy partnership for us, and something we definitely wanted to explore. And a couple of years down the line of having this partnership, we're now the leading provider of JagTag in the UK. So having that on board, and the amount of children that we work with, and the extras that we get, the positives that we get. So we get to take children to Wembley Stadium every year to see the Jacksonville Jaguars live. Back end of October in 2022, we took 156 children to London to actually experience a game, which is great. That's
all kind of paid for by the Jags. That's including travel, food in the stadium. They get merchandise, and it's the thing with the Jags. It's such an exciting partnership as well, because not only are we doing something different, which is amazing for the children, get that opportunity to try something different, they also get the opportunity to come and meet players. So like last year in June, we had a player visit, a player tour. They brought 3 players and an ex-pro down of the Jags, and we held it at Hopwood College, a local college near us, and we had 108 children playing Jag tag with these American footballers, and the event was unreal, unbelievable. So the excitement's there as well, and there's new ideas for this year where we're going to be going in different areas. We're going to be doing extra at Wembley. So when we're playing at Wembley this year, there's ideas of doing a full week and bringing children down from Manchester down to London, just to experience the whole event as well. And again, create that buzz of American football. And the main aim for the Jags is to get more fans and more supporters following the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and how do you deliver that then? Is that during term time or holiday camp? How do you you go into the schools and deliver? Is it during a PE lesson you do that?
It's all dependent on the school.
Just however the school needs it, kind of how it fits in the timetable.
Yeah, so we can approach the school, and it is something that we can deliver. During PE, PPA cover, we can do it during a lunchtime or an after-school club, and definitely during holiday clubs as well. And it's something that's gained a lot of attraction, especially in schools with the teachers who've never played American football before either. But on the flip side of that, you do get a lot of NFL fans, and as soon as they saw this programme, there was, they couldn't get enough of it straight away, because they knew that it was something that their kids have never had before. So sometimes the teachers actually enjoy it more than the kids.
Yeah. So the Jags have just become a foundation as well, which is exciting news, because now the idea is to start satellite programs. So going into youth zones, going into local communities and holding Jag tag evening sessions, community sessions, creating teams that will then link, because we're our primary school provision, linked to the local BAFTA teams, so British Association for Football. So local one to us is Manchester Titans, so we're going to be holding kind of link ties to them, creating opportunities for children to actually not just play Jag tag now, but the potential of actually getting into it properly, playing it week on week, maybe that being their number one subject, number one sport. So we went to London last year, and it was amazing, wasn't it? Because we actually helped the week before the game. They played against the Broncos at Wembley last year, and in that week build up to it, we helped them with a few events where the players that came down from their Jag tag satellite sessions in London were kind of playing with the players again. And the skill level is unreal. And Adam was speaking to, I think it was a 10-year-old. Is it?
Yeah, speaking to a few of the players that I had in my session, and typically myself and Ash, and obviously Edstart being more, northern based, we're heavily involved with our version of football up here. But it was strange, because I was saying to a few of the kids when we was in London, what football team do you support? And they didn't really come back with an answer, because they don't play football, they play American football, and that was their chosen sport. So down in London, it's become a real powerhouse of a sport down there.
Really starting to take off now, yeah.
Manchester. Yeah, and it's something that we're really excited about pushing further north as well, taking Jag tag further afield and getting more American football fans.
Yeah.
I'm curious in terms of, I know you made some changes as you've taken over and things like that, but how do you, as an organisation, franchise, obviously a lot more competitive landscape, stuff like that, what do you do to differentiate yourselves from kind of competition? Up in like where you are in the northwest, you've got the competition from major clubs, etc., major club foundations and things like that, and other commercial providers. But yeah, what's your kind of approach to differentiating yourself, like make you stand out? Obviously, programs like Jag tag will definitely help with that. But
yeah, absolutely. There's two views on this now. You can look internally. So let's say you're a school and you've got two businesses, any businesses. The way we look at it to be stood out is the quality side. We don't cancel sessions. If there's someone ill, we'll provide a coach in there. It's the reassurance from ourselves that make us stand out. And if you talk to every school that we've been in, every school are fully satisfied. They've never been disappointed. If there's some form of issue, then we're quick to deal with it and move on. Then it's a case of actually, right, quality, again, be quantity, I suppose. Looking at how do we stand out from that side of it. So bringing in the partners, bringing in the ambassadors. Yeah, it's a full package, but then it all comes down to the delivery and the coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a case of actually, right, let's focus on that. Let's focus on the quality side of things and bringing in that provision that actually no school will go away. Well, every school, shall I say, will bring us in and then be satisfied and have. We always look at it as if a head teacher's not had to speak to you for the year, then you've done something right, because you've had that quality. No one's been late. You've never had to don't cancel sessions anyway, but you've never had to ring up and say something. So
that must start becoming difficult to kind of maintain that, right? If you especially with the growth, franchising, standardizing, have you got that reputation? It's like it starts becoming more of a risk to bringing anyone else into the network, right?
Well, we always compare it. So I've always said, when I was just a Bury area manager, I'd always said to my management team in Bury that as we grow bigger in Bury, the target on your back becomes bigger, which means your scrutiny area becomes less. So if there are any issues, they're going to see it as big issues, because they know what your quality is like.
Because you set that expectation so high for them, that yeah.
So high, yeah. We're always driving standards, and you know, one of the big things that we did when we took over Edstart was to rebrand and make it new and exciting for the kids. And even, you know, uniform standards and all the standards that we set are so high because we want the services to be the absolute best for the kids.
Going into the franchise, our point of view as well, we've set them standards even further now. So we're kind of drilling that into all the franchise areas, because we have similar kind of standards in Bury and Rochdale where it's got to be the best. Everything's got to be the best, and it's attention to detail and so on and so on. So then we constantly, we don't like pester the franchisees, but we're making sure that them standards are being met and constantly kind of developing and getting further and further. But like you say, then as we do develop and as we do keep setting them standards, that target does get bigger.
Yep.
The pressure does get higher. And trust me, there's been some stressful times and where you're thinking, how are we going to get out of this? But we do it as a network, and that's where the network comes in, and we might get a coach from a different area. As long as it's all internal, then we're happy. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle with the timetables. So, yeah.
And you've got a big part of it is new franchisees coming in tend to be either from that area that they're moving into or very, very local. So they've already got a personal and an emotional relationship with that area as such, and they want the children that are from their local communities to have the best service. So not just the attention to detail, but each area manager and every single sports coach that we've got as part of the organisation, they all have connections with the schools. You know, they all have positive relationships with the school teachers, with the children in the areas, because we want to see that development in the kids. Like me personally, there from my primary school, it was having those positive experiences as a kid in primary school, which you can take it further. So the franchise managers, they're always in and around the schools. You know, it's always a face to a name. It's keeping that rapport and that professional relationship.
How do you keep that locality? Is it quite in terms of your territories? What kind of size would it be if I was a franchise one of your franchise owners in the network? Is it kind of 100 schools, 200 schools, 50 schools?
Yeah, we tend to look at local authority areas more so, but then when you do hit an area that is, you know, huge, there might be a couple of 100 schools in that area, which is possibly and most probably too much for one person to take on as an area. So we do typically look kind of in between, you know, the 60, 70 school mark, which gives them a nice area of a territory. It gives them a lot of schools to aim at to actually provide their services in the schools. And if an area did reach, you know, even half of that, if an area reached 35 schools, they'd be turning over quite a handsome salary.
Doing pretty well then, yeah, at that point. In terms of, I'm really curious about, like, because you've been there from the start and you've seen things progress, not just in the business but in the sector as well. Is there anything where you would say, looking back, big trends that have changed in the sector where now versus when you started, what the differences would be?
I think a lot kind of come round, like you say, a trend there. I think trends do come round again after a certain amount of time. So I kind of always think that competitions in local areas weren't as prominent as what they used to be. So I do remember like thinking back when I was in primary school, and even when I first started out at Edstart, the competitions was so highly, on the schools' radars, because schools wanted to take part. They wanted to give children opportunities to go places and play against other schools, play against different children. And don't get me wrong, it's getting there again, but I do think competition's one of them things where children are kind of prohibited at times, and they can't necessarily get involved in competitions. But I do think that's on the up again, with the schools and the areas what we work with. That's one trend. One of the things that you said before about the 2 hours PE, curriculum PE, thinking back to primary school myself, you don't remember doing much other things other than PE.
Yeah, no, I don't remember 2 hours either.
Yeah, we had games. The school called it Friday games. So as soon as you finish your lunch on a Friday, you got into a PE kit, and every single year group had games for the full Friday afternoon. So sport was a real big culture when I was in primary school. But a lot of primary schools, because of the pressure from Ofsted and pressure from parents as well, they want to give their kids the best education in that school, which is exactly what they should aim for. But for me, PE should be right up there, with maths, English. It should be right up at the very, very top to provide kids with a physical education.
So in terms of as you've been taking over the business and moving into that different role, is there anything that you've kind of developed as kind of your lead? I know you're already running your own franchise, so you might have already had this developed, but kind of leadership philosophies type things that you think this is how we want to run the business. Obviously, you've got your culture, but this is how we do things at Edstart.
Yeah, so to be fair, I think it helps us going into the franchisor point of view, having being together as a duo. Obviously, as a franchisee who's on your own, and you build your own team, then get your assistant managers, and then eventually your area managers, which is amazing. But then from that point of view, there's a lot of obviously micromanagement, delegation, so on and so on, but still coaching quite a lot of the time. Becoming a franchisor, I've got strengths, but I've also got a lot of weaknesses. Adam's got strengths, got a lot more weaknesses than me, but then we complement each other.
Yeah.
So it's a case of Adam's a number.
That was going to be a question of mine. How do you divide up responsibilities? Is it a case of you're on sales, you're on operations, marketing, whatever it be? Who does what?
It did kind of fit really well because, like Ash was saying there, I know it's joking about strengths and weaknesses. We've got a lot of similar strengths, but we've also got a lot of different strengths, and the strengths that I have don't necessarily match up with the strengths that Ash has, but that's great, because then there's not two of us fighting over the same job role. I tend to look at, like Ash said, with the numbers, I tend to break down a lot of the backroom stuff, and I look at the finances, I look at people's profits and turnovers, and I can really help businesses achieve what number they want to achieve. As well as, my actual frontline, my primary job was the sports coach side. And I think my role over the years has changed, and different jobs within Edstart definitely moulded the title, and not necessarily the title, but the job list and job structure that I have. So I worked with the specialist education side of Edstart as well, and I was one of their maths specialists at GCSE level. But that side really helped because I'd got the classroom teaching experience. I was still continually doing maths at GCSE level, and then I was running a business alongside. And just over time, my skills in that side just increased. And then since taking on, we've just had to kind of learn and bounce off each other, but also take things on board as well. Take criticism if it's from a franchisee or an area manager.
Yeah, but we've also got the respect for each other. That we're not afraid to challenge each other as well.
Yeah, with
respect. So if I don't agree with something, or if Adam doesn't agree with something, then it's on the table straight away, and then it's dealt with straight away. Yeah,
and how do you resolve those conflicts? If you have something that is like a real conflict, have you got a process of resolving it, or is it kind of just referee or get the boxing gloves on?
Yeah, we've had to a few times, and I've won obviously. But normally we go out through the network, and we've actually employed over the last 6 months a general manager of Edstart Sports Coaching. So we kind of become a trio, and it's again that's took us to the next level. But then when there's something that we're both like, I think this, you think that, well, what does this person think, or what does that? And we like the involvement of the franchisees and even the coaches, because we're a group, we're a service together. And if there's something going wrong on the front line, we need to be dealing with it like further down the line as well. So it's a team effort from all of us. And even when we make decisions, we'll kind of group up as a network of franchisees. Yeah. Like, what do we think of this? Where do we see this going forwards? What about this idea? Instead of it just being me and Adam and saying, right, this is what we're doing, we like the involvement of everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other way as well, the other side as well, that like running a business can be lonely, right? If you've got that team, that strong team around you, and that team environment working together, bouncing ideas.
We found that out as a franchisee. Originally, when we first become franchisees, as much as we are friends and we live in the same town, I think year down the line we became competitors. Not in the same area, not like it was competing for schools. It was competing to see who got the best, who got the most. I wanted more skills, Adam wanted more skills, and so on and so on.
So who had the top franchise then?
Well,
it was Rochdale for a long time initially. After like the third year, Bury set off in their own lane, didn't they?
But to be fair, we are at the same point. Yeah.
No, but it's what we always say. So other than Salford, like the founding area, Bury and Rochdale have always been the leading franchisees, but we've been there the longest. But we say it on a weekly basis. We're really looking forward to areas, not necessarily like doing better than Bury and Rochdale, but getting to a point where it kind of instills that healthy competition again amongst franchisees and area managers, because people want to achieve, people want to affect the lives positively of more kids every single day. And franchise managers and area managers, they want to be, creating a lasting career for themselves as well. So having that healthy competition in place, I think it really does work.
And again, from a franchisor point of view, again, this is going back to your question, like how we have to change from franchisee to franchisor. It's a total different ballgame now in terms of targets and so on and so on. We want them franchisees to get better and better, obviously, and we want to get new franchisees in and then develop them. So for us, from a franchisor point of view, we want them to take over Rochdale and Bury.
Yeah.
Because then we know we're putting the right things in place to build their business as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you talked about kind of next steps and what's the plan for the next, like you said, your kind of focus now is different to what it was as a franchisee. What's the kind of the future look like the 3 years out or the 5 year plan? If you've sat down and done that to get strategically planning and looking for growth and stuff. What does that look like?
We don't want to be one of those organisations that takes on far too much business than what we can handle, and then the quality be affected. We've always been a quality business, and every single school that we provide our services to are really, really important and special to us. And because we don't want to let standards slip, we want to make sure that our growth is continued and it's to the correct level as well. So we've got interest all the time with new franchise areas and new area managers wanting to come aboard. They have to fit in with our model of Edstart. They have to, have the same expectations set as us, and have that need to achieve as well, and obviously create a positive experience for kids in schools. So for us, like the next 3-5 years. Yeah,
what's that criteria look like that if for a new franchisee? Do you have like a criteria model, like say like this is what we're looking for? If we could find this is our perfect franchisee.
Yeah, so we look at not just the experience and qualifications. We do look at that person as well, the personality, their enthusiasm, the character, what their aspirations are, because you do get people coming in inquiring about a franchise, but they're almost looking for an escape from their day job, and they think that a sports coaching company just play football all day. Now, we want people coming in who know exactly what they want. They know that they're supporting children, they know they're supporting families and schools, and someone who can drive a business as well. And we know one when we see one, and we love the development of franchise areas as well, franchisees, because we can help build them. Like I said before, we're still franchise managers as well, so we almost have to change face depending on certain meetings and certain meetings what we find ourselves in. So when I'm in a school, I go in as the berry manager of the school, the franchise owner, and then when we go into a different meeting, it might be to a university meeting, that's where I'm the director of Edstart Sports Coaching. And everybody that we've got on board at the minute, they are real characters with personality, with drive, with passion, with goals, and it just really fits in line with what we want to achieve as an organisation. And we believe the best way to grow is through everybody else having the same expectations and the same goals as well.
Now, it's just a couple of questions we always ask everyone who comes on the show is around kind of, I guess, personal development, stress management, high performance. Do you have any habits that you put in place to be like, right, I want to be on top form today or every day? I always have to do these certain things, or just ways of dealing with the stresses of running a business? I
think it's something that I always set in place, right from being the Berry franchise manager, was simply doing a to-do list, a handwritten to-do list every single day, whether it's an easy task or whether it's a tricky task for that day. It's looking at striking a job off a job list that you've done, which creates productivity for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. I'm more of a man of routine anyway, so I'll tend to get up at the same time each day and I'll do the same morning routine. I always like to get in the office nice and early just to give myself that breathing space, and then I can plan for my day. I won't necessarily get straight to work and start the minute that I get in, but because I get into the office nice and early, I'll always have a good hour to just gather my thoughts, get my to-do list together, open the laptop, and then I get straight to it. That's usually around 7 a.m, 7:15 a.m. most mornings. And it's just it's just acting upon things as well. So it's, if there is something that comes to your door or comes to fruition, you get an email and your routine for the day changes. It's just responding and reacting positively. And you might have a really bad day, so you might have a bad day on a Tuesday, but that doesn't mean that Wednesday's got to be a bad day as well. It's, deal with an issue if you've got an issue at that current moment in time. There might be something that doesn't go your way one day, but tomorrow's a new day. Get back to your routine, what you've got, and then smash that day ahead.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Ash? The same? You in at 7:15, or you rolling in a bit later?
To be fair, I do roll into the office a bit later, but I'm a person of I'm an optimist, and I'm quite a strong optimist. I see the positive in everything, but I'm also quite a physical person. So for me, exercise is something that kind of drives me, and so I'm in the gym every morning, try and get in there for 6, get an hour's done, back home, bit of time with family. So I like to spend a bit of time with my boy before he goes to school, and then get onto it. So then physically, I know I'm motivated internally, and then mentally I'm ready for the office. So I'm ready to go and do sessions. But I am a day-to-day person, so I'll make sure I've got that to-do list. Like Adam said, I love the idea of being able to kind of strike off a job that's done. There's a big sense of achievement there. So yeah, in terms of actually, it's just being organised and being. I think what I've always adapted, and like I say, it comes from the optimism again, is being able to adapt and look at the positive side of things. So like Adam said, if something doesn't go to plan, right, looking at how and again, it's because of the mental and the positive effects from exercise that I feel I get. As soon as that difficult scenario comes in, I can adapt to it. I can positively think about, right, let's do this and this. We'll try this or whatever. And I think that approach to life, I suppose, is my way of being able to be successful. Is just always look at positivity.
Yeah, and you're always getting things thrown at you as well, so you're going to have to adapt to them all the time, right?
Yeah. With work though as well, it's whether it's split. Me and Ash's split like job role as such. If Ash knows that I've got a very busy day, kind of externally, or I've got to go into schools and I've got to do something, I can always rely on Ash being able to take my job list for that day and then absolutely vice versa, where we bounce off each other very well with that. If someone's had a bad day or someone's feeling under the weather a little bit, we know that the other person will give that extra 25%, and we can help each other out with that. So each day today in Edstart is just as strong as its last one.
Yeah, you can see that with that, I guess, with the success you're having at the moment. I mean, one thing, like, kind of last question for me is always the reflective one we ask everyone about giving advice to your younger self. And I guess you're doing it all the time with new people joining the business or new coaches and stuff like that. But if you could go back to speak to yourself when you first started out in industry, what was the one piece of advice you'd go back and tell?
That's a question I've never been faced.
Yeah, personally, education for myself. Because that's something I full on overlooked as a kid, as a high school student, and then probably for a few years after, it was like a learning curve for me. Like I said at the beginning, I see education now, and I'm constantly I try and read books, but I'm always on podcasts and constantly trying to develop myself with it, whether it's courses and so on and so on. And I think I missed that in the early days. So I think if I did that sooner and acknowledged the actual importance of it. Not that I'd be any further, but I think I'd have a lot more knowledge in myself, and I do have to ask a lot of questions most of the times because I've not got that knowledge. So yeah, that's for me, education.
Yeah, I think mine would just be a case of because I kind of knew what I wanted to do from an early age. It was almost like the exploration of looking at other industries as well, and because I knew I was always going to be involved in sport, just because you work in the sporting industry doesn't mean that another industry can benefit you as a person and benefit you as a business person as well. So I was almost always streamlined into education, but myself, it was something that I just always wanted to do, and I never really explored anywhere else. So potentially that, if you give a bit of advice, just...
Yeah, taking some time out to look at other stuff, year out or gap it, yeah.
Yeah, gain, explore it in different areas. Even as much as I played a lot of sport, do more sports. Why not do gymnastics at an early age or dance at an early age?
Thanks so much for sharing your time, being so transparent with me. I know we've got we'll probably have plenty of people who want to get involved, and I know you've already got all that inbound requests for new franchisees. But if there are any more, head over to your website. We'll link all that in the notes and stuff. But yeah, just want to say a big thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.